all of us have this childhood trauma that our childhood brain couldn't cope with and deal with.
That's why therapy is so important, dude.
Has Hands ever had therapy?
I think it's unnecessary. I will say I would do it again.
And this doctor calls me, says, hey, I just want to call and let you know that your wife's paralyzed. My body just went numb.
What was the biggest regret and the biggest win from Diesel Power Gear? We recently closed that company down. Our biggest year was like $30 million. What happened with Nikola? You're definitely not sweeping that under the rug. It's going to be something real big, real soon, and you guys will see it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. I'm not going to give you some long, crazy, drawn-out intro where I say the same thing over and over again, just in different ways, which is something I tend to do sometimes. Instead, I'm just going to tell you that the Heavy Checklist podcast is back, and we got some familiar faces. Big Marcus Wing over here, and we've got Mr. Is it Meat Curtain or Ham Wallet?
Sister
Meat Curtain.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got the Muscle. Funny backstory in this nickname here that we'll get into here in a minute. Now, as you guys know, the format of this podcast is about just basically becoming a better human and finding ways to feel more fulfilled and, more joy and spread that joy and happiness to everybody that you come in contact with. We call it the Heavy Checklist because every episode we come up with a few different kind of items that we give you as marching orders or homework that are things that we've implemented in our own lives that you can take and implement in your life. And it's everything from, taking ice baths, which we were talking about 3 years ago, which is insanely trendy and crazy now. Over the last couple of years, it's become really popular, down to what kind of pizza combinations you should try. Like literally, we're just going to share with you things that make us happy. So, and also more importantly, we're going to share with you things that may be hard, but that are good for us and help us to grow. So the format is going to be, obviously we've got, me and Marcus have been doing this together forever. We've invited the Muscle to come along and help us host the show. And then you'll see a lot of our, regular characters, people that you may recognize from our program and our content and stuff like that. Diesel Dave, he'll be on here. But more importantly, we're going to have some of the most killer guests you've ever seen. Our goal is to bring on the types of guests that, ranging all the way from Marcus's wife, Heidi, who just went through a completely life-changing tragedy that's turning into like one of the coolest, most heartwarming stories I've ever heard, to guys like, I want to get the president on here. Maybe not the current president, but I would like to get some of these high-profile people that maybe never sit down in this type of setting and kind of pick their brain and open them up a little bit and figure out what makes them tick and what's made them successful and what some of their major downfalls have been as well. So that's going to be the format of the show. Tonight, essentially, since this is kind of the welcome back episode, we're just going to fill you guys in on kind of where we're at, what's been going on in our lives, different updates, things that we've been going through, things that we're looking forward to. And then also we've opened it up to a little bit of a Q&A. So I just put up an Instagram story and I asked people to basically submit their questions. And so whenever we do that, we get thousands of questions. So obviously we're not going to be able to get to thousands of questions tonight, but we're going to be able to get to a handful of them and hopefully answer some of those deep burning questions that you guys have. So that is the format. Before we get started, I'd like to ask you guys, before you even listen to the show, if you are a fan of this, or if you've listened to it in the past and, received some sort of value out of it, we ask that you please just share these episodes. That is the most critical thing that you can do for us. Share it on any platform. Obviously, this is on all major podcast platforms, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you find podcasts, you'll find us. Share the link. Maybe post it on your page and tell, friends and family that are seeing this stuff, like, hey, this helped me, you should check it out. That would help us greatly. And the more you guys share, the more incentive and drive we have to continue to create more content. I have this wild, lofty goal of releasing 2 episodes a week.
But we'll settle for 1.
I mean, we'll start with 1, right?
How about just 2 weeks in a row?
2 weeks.
Can we start there?
So we're going to start by trying to do this 2 weeks in a row consecutively. Because as you guys may know, if you've followed the show for a while, there's been a lot of times where we've started, gone a few episodes, and then life happened and we stopped. And, we've had a huge hiatus, probably well over 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And it's been longer than that, hasn't it?
Well, we started actively doing this in 2019.
Just before the pandemic.
And we ran it pretty solid for about a year. And then it started to kind of taper off. Pandemic obviously kind of made things weird. got every excuse in the book. None of them are good. So we're just going to roll into this and prove to you guys, and more importantly ourselves, that we can actually stick with it and do it, because it's something that we really do enjoy. And I don't know about you, Marcus, but I've had so many people reach out and be like, hey man, episode blah, blah, blah of your podcast changed my life. And when we're recording this, we don't really think like that. I don't think right now that what I'm saying is going to potentially change the course of somebody's life, which, you know, in turn changes the course of their family and generations to come. It's pretty big stuff. And so that's why we're taking it very seriously. But we have had a lot of you reach out and just give us your stories, tell us the things that you've implemented and how it's made your life better. And we really appreciate that. And our goal is to continue down that path. So
for at least 2 weeks in a row.
For at least 2 weeks in a row.
That's what we're committing to.
So I've got my little Caesars hot and ready here, which I'm going to probably eat here on camera. I apologize in advance for the chewing noise. Joe Rogan, did you guys hear his podcast recently with Elon? They were talking about pizza, got all excited about it, and Joe ordered a pizza during the show. It showed up and they start eating it, and Joe just kind of goes ham, like just kind of blacked out, and just starts going crazy, like eating more and more and more, and he's chewing in the mic, and you can hear this pizza for like, you're thinking it's going to be like a 10-second clip. 10 minutes later, they're still chomping on the pizza, just having the best time ever, loving the pizza. I think it got to the point where Jamie actually had to pull the pizza away from him, and he's like, Joe, stop. Because Joe he doesn't eat junk very often, and when he does, he just kind of goes ham. So
I'm assuming it was the munchies.
Probably, yeah. That's actually a good point. Yeah. So if that starts to happen here on this show, you guys can feel free to deal with it.
You will hear us eating.
Yes, you will. All right, so with that said, let's get into the conversation. Since we last did this, I can't even remember the date of the last show. Like we said, it was well over 2 years ago. There's been a lot of, life moves fast. Sometimes it feels like life moves really, really slow, and nothing that you're trying to make happen is happening the way you want it to. And then all of a sudden a year goes by and you're like, whoa, I've accomplished a lot. Like, you and I were having this conversation the other day. I think it was episode 1 of our podcast. We talked about creating vision boards. And vision boards are pretty powerful tools. Unfortunately, they've kind of got this stigma attached to them where it's like, oh, it's like woo-woo, voodoo, hippie shit. I disagree 100%. Vision boards are very powerful. It's basically just a reminder to yourself of some of your goals, and it's a visual reminder. So it's, right there in your face. But when it comes to vision boards, before I really knew how potent and powerful they were, kind of when I was first getting started, and this would have been when I was 22, 23, 24, I threw everything on there.
Did you really have a vision board then?
Oh yeah, I have it. Yeah, I have a. Did I bring in the printed copy?
No, but I've seen it.
Yeah. The only reason I asked that question is because everybody always said, "Oh yeah, I had a vision board," but I don't think a lot of people really. No, that's
the best part about my vision board story, and the reason why I actually included it in episode 1 of this podcast is because my vision board was. I put some stuff on there that a kid from my upbringing and my background, my family situation, probably shouldn't have ever thought that he could accomplish, like Black Hawk helicopters and stuff like that. So yeah, I did. I think it was 2012 or 2013 is when I put my vision board together.
I was living in Kenny's basement, and he was showing everybody The Secret.
Yep, exactly. I saw The Secret, and Kenny will be on the show too. You guys have seen Kenny in the past. He helped us host. Kenny's also going to be part of the new program moving forward, but Kenny introduced me to The Secret, and then I got introduced to vision boards. Long story short, I put a bunch of stuff on my vision board and then just kind of went to work, started living. I don't think I looked at it. There was probably a period of about 5 years where I just kind of forgot because life got real busy and my career started taking off. And then when I came back to shoot this podcast, I went to look at the vision board to show everybody that it was real. And I'm pretty sure everything, if not 90% of the stuff on there, I'd already received.
Yeah,
and I didn't even realize it.
You showed me, and I remember seeing it, and remember thinking, like, you did everything on that board.
Like, down to the very exact dog.
Yeah.
Down to the same color of a Black Hawk helicopter. And you have to remember that as I was doing these things, accomplishing these goals, I wasn't consciously thinking of, okay, that's on my vision board, check it off. I just knew I had kind of drilled these things into my subconscious so deep that it was really
the audio guy?
We got
the audio guy.
Sorry, folks. Leland Johnson is calling me. I have no idea who that is.
As you can see, we're a little bit rusty, so bear with us here because I'm sure that's going to be one of
phones going on mute.
Yeah.
Hey, you didn't have your vision board here, but you did have recorded affirmations that you did play.
How about that?
Which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Those affirmations.
I remember seeing the vision board. I remember you showing it to me and us talking about how you had already accomplished everything that was on that board.
Yeah. And so that's why I brought it up tonight, is because now I understand the power of the vision board. And it's funny because I'm actually kind of reluctant to put things on it now.
That's
and
what
it's
we
not
talked about the other
it's
night.
not because I don't think I can accomplish them. It's because I know that whatever I put on there is going to enter my life very soon. And so I have to basically prioritize, because I know if I put it on there, whether I intend to or not, my effort and focus is going to kind of start to go that direction. So let's say I wanted to own a McDonald's franchise, right? Well, if I put that on my vision board right now, a lot of other stuff that I'm working on would kind of take a back seat to this goal that I have, and I would focus and I would make it happen.
Which, truthfully, you would be a great McDonald's regional manager.
Regional manager?
I was saying this 2023, couldn't we like maybe think of like a healthier choice than McDonald's?
No. If Dave's going in on a restaurant, it's McDonald's for sure. But he's
hold on. It's probably a Beto's, actually.
Yeah, a Rancheritos.
A Rancheritos, yeah. Not
and he's the regional guy.
I am the regional sales champion 3 years in a row.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, I like that. No, but that's the thing. So I'm not telling you to not put things on your board. I'm just saying that once you get momentum and you really start to understand how this manifesting and this, basically goal setting works, you got to be careful, because one thing I've learned over the years is you don't get time back that you spend. And so you have to learn how to use it the most effective way possible. And also, I think a lot of people spend their whole life stressing about running out of time, and they literally use all their time just thinking about running out of time and not having enough time. And where I'm going with that is we kind of forget to live sometimes. You get so focused on these goals and your career and different things that we're working on. So with that said, it's time for me to update my vision board. I've slowly been adding stuff to it the last 6 months or so, but I'm going to basically have to do a whole new one, because everything that I put on my original board is already in my possession.
Do you have a vision board?
Yes and no. I have a vision board that No. I actually have one, but the one that I did last, I've accomplished everything on it. Mm-hmm. One of the things, because he kind of got into it, one of the things that we talked about when we were at my house the other day is what we have learned is not to put things on there unless you're truly ready to have it, because of the amount of time and energy that it takes to do and have what you're seeking. So like for me, I literally have said to myself, I'm not going to put a yacht on there yet. Not because I don't want a yacht, but because I fully comprehend what it's going to take time and energy wise to get that thing that I put on the board. I'm now in the position, Dave's in the position, you're in the position where we understand when we put something out into the universe, we're going to get it, but we must match that energy and work to get it. And truthfully, like, not that I don't want a yacht right now, but I don't want to put the energy and the time and the work into getting it right now, so I'm not going to put a yacht on my vision board. So now it's not about putting together a vision board, but it's literally going through and being decisive, like he's saying, and saying, I do want that, but I'm not going to put that on the board yet.
Let me tell you the way that I view that. What I'm hearing you say is you would love to have a yacht, and it would be a huge goal of yours. Check that off the list if you were able to get one. But right now, if you wanted to get that yacht, like you said, you would have to kind of redirect a lot of your attention and focus to be able to make that happen. And then you would start using it like crazy. So I think what you're really trying to do is, instead of putting the lot or that yacht next on the list, you can leave that down the line a little bit and put some more short-term goals on that list. And those goals are inevitably going to be the things that support you in being able to get the yacht in a way that doesn't consume all of your time and attention.
Yeah, because you have
creating a lifestyle.
You have to understand, when you build big things in your mind and you dream big things, you got to put everything into it. And that sometimes means like, okay, that means something's got to take a back seat. Work, family, personal time. And again, I'm not saying I don't want the yacht, but do I want it yet at the sacrifice of my personal time right now, or my business, or my family time? No. Not right now.
What you're saying is that you're learning how to prioritize.
Yeah. Even though it's still a goal and I will have it one day, I'm learning how to prioritize the things in front of my face that I want now and the things I want in the future.
Yeah. Does it sound crazy that I'm not a millionaire, right? But I don't want to be one?
Why?
Because I know I could make $1 million this year today. And I tell that people all the time, I'm like, yeah, I can make $1 million this year, but I don't want to do what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Because if you start doing those things, what's going to suffer?
My family lifestyle. Like, look, I do well.
You're living the life of a millionaire right now.
Dude, I'm obviously there's a lot going on right now, which I would definitely change and could get better, yada, yada, yada. But lifestyle wise, my business and what I'm doing, like, I am so content and happy to be here that it's like, yeah, people say, oh, why don't you put $1 million or why don't you put us on the vision board? Because I don't want that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things on my vision board right now, like obviously priority number one and pretty much mission one in all of life right now is just to get Heidi better.
Yeah. And which we're going to get into here in a minute.
And we don't need to talk about that, but I'm just saying,
I do want to talk about that.
On that same note though, it's like, yeah, you know, you can get a yacht this year, but is it worth what it's going to take to freaking get you there?
Well, not only that, but let me ask you this. If I gave you $1 million right now, what would you do?
I don't know.
Probably just spend time with your family.
I mean, I'd probably take some sweet vacations with them. I'm not going to put it in business. I'd probably just go have a lot of fun with my family.
And what are you doing right now?
I'm having a lot of, with Heidi's injury, we've had to kind of like adjust, right? But we still do a lot of things together. And me and Heidi spend a lot of time together, which I wouldn't trade for any amount of money.
So while we're on that subject, why don't we get into what happened and so keep in mind, as he's talking about this, we are going to have his wife Heidi come in for a whole episode because what she has accomplished is nothing short of a full-blown miracle. And it's happened right in front of our eyes and it's been insane to watch. So
I don't mean to like switch the gears here either. I was just saying, when you were saying that, it's like, dude, I could make a vision board right now and be like, yeah, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And I'm saying sometimes, like, at least in my case, dude, I think it's okay to realize that you don't want that.
So this is a thought that I've had recently that I've kind of struggled back and forth with. Would that not mean that your vision board actually is these things with the things that you would think you're missing? For example, for you, your vision board is, well, I want to be a millionaire, because everybody wants to be a millionaire, but you don't. No, hold on.
Yeah.
You do. You just don't want to have
do what it takes.
Yeah, you don't want to. But so then wouldn't the vision board become a millionaire without having to sacrifice time with my family?
Yeah. And again, I think that just takes a lot of freaking effort.
I'm sure it does. It does. But again, that's still on. And I think some of this, and I actually like this conversation, I think some of this is actually figuring out what it really means to put together a vision board and your priorities to have what you want. Because there are actual like levels and priorities. And so for you, like, dude, you want to have them. If you were like, can I have $1 million in my bank account or not? No, I don't want to. No, you would. You just don't want to have to do the things that it takes, which you know would take away from time in the family.
Because I could be a millionaire this year if I wanted to.
But maybe the real vision board for you is in 2 years, because dude, your business is going to go crazy this year. And in 2 years, you will become a millionaire without having to sacrifice the time with your family that you're originally thinking.
And it could be slower. I mean, I could happen eventually over time, but my vision board looks, and I don't have one written out. Let me be honest. I'm not going to sit here and fake and tell you that I do, but if I was to map it out, it would look a lot different.
But that's why I think, honestly, the whole point of this is like, there's timelines to your vision boards.
Yeah.
And I think what we're really talking about is your vision board right now doesn't have make $1 million and give up time with my family. But your vision board probably in 2 or 3 or 4 years when your business is just fucking crushing has this like, oh yeah, I easily made $1 million this year. By the way, I spent more time with my family and made that money.
Yeah, but I think we're going about this the wrong way, to be honest with you. After that conversation we had the other night talking about like, oh, I'm reluctant to put things on there because it's going to consume all my time and energy. That right there is giving into a weakness that we all have, which is not learning how to prioritize and not learning how to, put certain things in front of other things that are going to lead to a more sustainable path and a future. So we should be putting everything on there, but we should also be consciously and subconsciously prioritizing that and actually putting a timeline together in our head. So if you want that $1 million, obviously you want it and you would love to have it tomorrow, but at what cost? And so you have to do that calculation and figure out, okay, I could have $1 million tomorrow, but it's going to consume all my time for the rest of the year and I'm going to miss out on time with my family. Or I would like to become a millionaire eventually, and I want the universe to put that in my lap at the right, perfect time, but it's something that's still going to happen. That's one thing that I never did with my vision board, and I'm glad I didn't. I never put deadlines on it.
But did you have timelines on anything?
Never. I never
put, and I always did. That's why I had such a hard time, because I like what you're saying. You're literally saying, like, put out there what you want. Like it would be like we said the other day, look, I'm not going to put it because I'm not ready for it. Well, that's not that you should, but you should be able to prioritize it in a timeline that makes sense to get what you want, how you want, when you want.
I'll tell you what I'm going to start doing with my vision board when I kind of reorganize it is I'm going to take those big lifetime, long-term, lofty goals and put it at the top and then work down from there. And I'm going to build basically kind of building blocks and milestones that I can hit on my way to that big moment or those big items.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to allow us to, and granted, things may not happen in that order, but as long as you understand that you don't have to get that top item tomorrow or next year, or what I would say is if you're going to put a timeline on it, give it a lot of thought first.
Yeah.
On any certain item or on the vision board as a whole. Put a lot of thought into that and think about, yes, I do want this thing, but how is this going to affect other areas of my life?
Can I tell a quick story?
Yeah.
So this kid who worked for me, and I won't name him personally because I don't want him to know that I'm disclosing his family's personal information, but his parents had these goals that they were going to retire and freaking travel the country, right? And so they both worked full-time jobs, made really good, money, put away, and they were 1 year away from their retirement, which they were going to execute on all these goals. His mom got terminal cancer and she died 3 months later.
Wow.
So she spent her whole life looking at this end goal of retiring
and not allowing herself to feel
to do it
fulfilled until it happened.
Yeah. And that's one thing that it taught him a lesson. He was going to school to become like a lawyer, and he's like, screw this. And he started traveling and he just started living, right? And I've always thought about that too. And especially with and I don't want to keep bringing up Heidi, but it's a big thing in my life right now, dude. Like, Heidi could have died.
Yeah.
And that would have been it. You know what I mean? So one thing that I know with everything going on and all the vision stuff and the goals and shit is you just got to freaking enjoy where you're at. Whether you got $1 million in the bank or you got $10, that life can be enjoyed at any stage. You know what I mean? And you never know when you're going to die. So as much as it's good to set these goals and to get there, it's like, enjoy the process, man. Enjoy your family, and don't wait to live until you've hit those goals, because there's a lot of good times that come along the way.
That's the thing, though, I think that all of us miss often is if you're not happy right now in the journey, you're not going to be happy when you hit that lofty goal. If you're not happy right now in your life with the money you make, you're not going to be happy when you make $1 million or $2 million or $10 million. If you're not happy right now with what your life looks like, you're not going to be happy with more materialistic or more goals accomplished. You just won't. And most people don't understand that until they get faced with something in their life like you have just recently with Heidi. And then they get put back into the perspective of like, holy shit, dude, I've been on the train and the journey this whole time, and I've been looking into the distance, not enjoying the actual present moment that I've been given. And I want, because we keep saying we're going to talk about it, but what is it you feel like when this all happened with Heidi? What is it you feel like changed in your perspective?
What's important?
But what specifically?
I mean, like, I had to work a lot, right? And I never really delegated, and I had to do a lot of trips, and I never thought I could afford to do that. Mm-hmm. And then when Heidi went into the hospital, obviously, and I don't know, man,
we're gonna get right into it. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Start with when it happened.
Okay. So Heidi, dude, we've talked about this. We talked on the show about how it was important for Heidi and our wives, and to have like passions and goals and like
have something outside of the kids.
Yeah. And Heidi came to me, and at first I said, what do you want to do? And she says, I want to go mountain biking. So we went and freaking bought her a mountain bike, and she loved it. And she mountain biked. She had a group of her girlfriends. I eventually got a mountain bike, started riding with her. It's great memories. Well, her cousin came to her and was like, hey, we should do a road bike race. And she's like, well, okay, how long is it? She's like, it's 100 miles. I've already signed you up. So she signed up for this road mountain bike. So we took her down to the bike shop. We got her fitted for a bike. We got the shoes. We got the freaking computer. And she was passionate. She was riding 4 or 5 times a week, riding up to 100 miles a week. I think her longest ride was like 70 miles a day, working up to this race where she went with her friends and her cousin, and she was so happy. Like, she had found her thing.
Yeah.
And then she went up there. The race was in Logan. I got a text from her at mile 40. She got a flat, and some person was sitting there helping her change her flat. And I didn't go up. She said, no, I just want to go with my friends. I'm like, all right, cool, go do your thing, but keep me posted. Well, I was at the gym, and I got a phone call from my buddy whose wife was there, and he says, hey, dude, like, you gotta go to Logan. Heidi got hurt. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, did she fall over? Did she skin her knee?
Yeah, because you're thinking on a bike, what's the worst?
I'm like, what's the deal? And he's like, Marcus, you just got to go. So I'm like, yo, give me your wife's number. So I called his wife, and I was like, yo, what's up? And she's like, Marcus, you got to get up here. I'm like, well, let me talk to Heidi. And they're like, you can't. And I was like, well, what does that mean? You know? She's like, Marcus, you just got to get up here. So I jump my truck. I'm doing like 120, flying in and out of traffic, getting to Logan, and I get like 20 minutes from the hospital with very little updates. Her cousins called me and told me, hey, they got her an ambulance. Hey, they got her here. And I'm still like, have no idea how significant it is. And then this doctor calls me. He says, hey, are you Marcus? I'm like, yeah. He's like, hey, I just want to call and let you know that your wife's paralyzed. I'm like,
just like that?
Just like that.
That seems...
It's a little casual, right?
Yeah.
He says, you need to turn around, and they're going to life flight her down to Murray. You need to turn around. I said, no, I'm going to be there in 10 minutes. And like, at that point, like, my body just went numb. I couldn't function, like, really weird sensation, but yeah. So I get to the hospital.
This was 4 months ago?
June 3rd.
June 3rd.
So I get to the hospital, and I get there before they life flight her, and I go in there, and sure enough, she's paralyzed from her neck down.
Is she speaking?
She can speak. She's in severe pain. She couldn't move her arms, but she destroyed her collarbone when she wrecked. So like when she would move, you could hear the bones like crunching, and she could feel that. And so she was in a lot of pain, and she broke her neck at a C5 level.
And she was going about 20 miles an hour?
19 miles an hour.
19 miles an hour, and just kind of hit a weird shoulder?
So what happened is the road they repaved it, and so it kind of like had like a little hump in it, you know, like when you get a new, and then, so there's like a rounded off edge. She veered off a little bit. She turned around to look at the rest of her friends, and it kind of drifted her over, and when her tire went off that thing, it turned her sideways, and she flipped and broke her neck. So long story short, doctor was an asshole.
There wasn't a ton of road rash, meaning
nothing.
Her head and neck took the impact.
And if you look at her helmet, there's no dents or anything in her helmet.
Yeah.
There was nothing in her helmet. So they life flighted her down to IMC. They did emergency surgery on her neck. 2 days later, they repaired her shoulder because they said, hey, if your arms come back, you're going to need them. So they repaired that. We did 40 days in the hospital. We did like 2 weeks in the ICU.
Was there ever a time that they said that she would walk or wouldn't walk?
Never.
Like you just didn't know?
They said to prepare her to live a good life in a wheelchair. So eventually, like a weekend is when she started getting her arm movement back.
Yeah.
Which was positive, but they still wanted to send her home in like an electronic wheelchair, which she refused. And she always from the very beginning has said, hey, I'm going to walk. Like, I no doubt. But 40 days in the hospital, we did pretty much a full remodel on our house, getting it ready for, her to be in a wheelchair, which helped at the time, But since then, it's just a long, weird story. And I don't want to like feel like I'm, you know what I mean? I don't want to be weird talking about it.
This is something that it's good to talk about.
Yeah. But, we came out of the hospital. Insurance says, hey, you have 10 days for rehab after a neurological,
that was
injury.
That was what your policy included.
Yeah. 10 days. And so, we went to this really cool place, which is like a second home right now, called NeuroWorks. The owner, it's a nonprofit. Her name's Jan. She gave us our tour there and walked us through. And she looked at me about a week into it. And this is when Heidi's not walking at all, not even moving her legs. And she says, Marcus, I don't say this to many people. She's like, but Heidi's going to walk again. And she says, you need to have her here 5 days a week. She's like, I'm not trying to, pick your pockets. I don't care about your money. If you can't do it, we'll figure it out. But she says, Marcus, you need to have her here 5 days a week. The average patient at NeuroWorks goes 2 days a week for 1 hour a day. Heidi goes to NeuroWorks 5 days a week for 2 to 3 hours a day.
Jeez.
Through that, she's started walking, started with, they have this like lifts that you're in a hoist and they lift you up and it helps you, it relieves like body weight. She did it with that. Then she started walking with a walker. She graduated to a walker at home. And then she went from a walker to an arm cane.
Well, let me back up a little bit and explain to you guys what kind of person Heidi is. Heidi is one of the only wives in kind of my whole friend group that can keep me on my toes, like consistently.
She loves giving you shit.
She's a fireball, man. Heidi is an absolute fireball. This girl has just the most like spunky, vivacious personality you've ever seen. And she's kind of seems to have never-ending energy. And she's also extremely bullheaded when it comes to certain things. And so when Heidi says, I'm going to walk again, like that's not a like a hopeful promise. That's, a hopeful, aspiration. That's like a promise from her. Like whatever she says, she's going to, do, she's going to do. That's what I know about Heidi. And I know that she has the drive to be able to accomplish whatever it is that she puts her mind to. And this is probably the most important, most critical thing that she's ever put her mind to. And damn, dude, she moved fast.
Yeah. Through this whole process, I've probably cried 1,000 times and I punched holes in walls and I've thrown shit and just, people think that I've handled this like super gracefully and I haven't, Heidi's cried twice.
Yeah.
For a consecutive time, about 30 seconds. And then she says, okay, I'm done feeling sorry for myself. I just want to work.
Jordan Peterson says you should be the strongest person at your father's funeral. He talks about when adversity comes, you should essentially be the rock for everybody else. My question is, how have you done that for your family?
You have a choice.
Yeah, dude, this has been like my saying that just goes over my head over and over and over again. It's just play the cards you're dealt. If I could choose, the people who say this, like, I wouldn't change what happened to me for the world. It's a bunch of bullshit. I would pay any amount of money. I would give anything to have my wife be completely normal and walk again and be able to enjoy everything she has. But that's not the case, and it's never going to be the case. So we just play the cards we're dealt, and you just do what you have to do. It's hard, man. Frankly, it's like, dude, I had to take care of Heidi. This is how serious Heidi's condition was. When she was in the ICU, when she first got in there, because she was completely paralyzed, she had no coughing reflex. So when she would get something in her throat, she would just go, and she couldn't breathe.
Just choking.
Yeah. And so we had to rely at first on the ICU nurses, which some are really good and some shouldn't have their jobs. And they would come in and they would do this thing called a quad cough. And then they would put a suction hose down her throat to suck it out so she could breathe. And then eventually that wasn't working really good. So they put a tube down her nose that would go into the back of her throat that they could put a tube in to suck this stuff out. Then one therapist came, or the breathing therapist come in and he says, Marcus, when she does that, you put your 2 fingers under here, you stick your hand under, you push like this, and it'll help her cough. And he's like, you take the suction and you put it down her throat like this. And so he showed me. So after that, I wouldn't let the nurses do it.
Sounds violent.
It's not pleasant, but you know, when your wife's sitting there choking and can't breathe.
You're basically just doing the Heimlich maneuver every time she needs to cough.
Yep.
Jeez.
But that's how serious, like, it was, you know?
Yeah, I had a chance. I've seen Heidi once or twice since all this happened. And when I saw her, so Marcus put on a moto event, had a bunch of, you know, friends and family.
Brian Green from the Edge of Power Sports.
Yeah, Brian Green put together this motocross event where basically, because Marcus's family's big in the motocross scene, his kids all ride bikes, and you guys are at the track a lot. And so put together this event, and it was kind of a fundraiser for Heidi. And it wasn't like, hey, come donate money. It was like, hey, come ride your motorcycle in a race, pay the entry fee that you would have paid at any race, and those proceeds will go to helping, you know, Heidi's rehab. And amazing turnout, great event. But I saw Heidi there for the first time after the accident, and I usually don't have a hard time knowing what to say to somebody. It usually just kind of comes to me. I usually don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
When I ran into Heidi, I really honestly couldn't find the words. I couldn't say, I'm so sorry, or
she would have cussed you out.
Have the standard sympathy that you need to have for somebody else. I literally couldn't. I didn't feel the sympathy for her because I knew that that's not what she wanted. Heidi wanted our relationship and that encounter to be no different than how it's always been. Full of life, full of excitement, giving each other shit. And she did. I think she instantly started teasing me for not having seen her up until that moment, and gave me shit. And I was like, wow, she's actually the exact same person, if not a more powerful person because of what she's been through, and she's not letting this get her down. She's not looking for that sympathy. She's not looking to talk about how scared she was. She did mention to me in that moment, she's like, Dave, I've been down on myself once. Up until that point, it had been one time, and it was for a total of about 30 seconds. And then she just shook that off and realized that wasn't going to do her any good. I'm really excited to bring Heidi in here and talk to her because, man, it's like, on podcasts, you hear all these incredible people and their incredible stories and all this motivational content. And it's usually somebody high profile or a celebrity or something. But then you got somebody like Heidi, who's a mom of 4 kids, and she's a wife, and she's not a celebrity. She's not a high profile person, but I've received more inspiration from Heidi throughout this whole process than anybody that I can in recent memory, whether they be a celebrity, high profile, it doesn't matter. Some people who do this for a living, people who try to motivate. Heidi gave me more motivation in that 5-minute conversation than anybody I've spoken to. And the reason for that is because it was raw. It was just raw, and it was real, and it wasn't putting on a show. It was basically survival for her. And she explained to me, you know, the mindset that she had to keep. And like Marcus said, you know, play the hand you're dealt. That's the hand she was dealt. And so she just figured out a way. So I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy when we bring her on.
When you talk about vision board stuff and like the power of mind and everything, there are people who leave the hospital and they'll say, hey, you have 10 freaking visits for therapy and that's it. And they say, well, okay, I guess that's what it is. Right. And then guess what? They go home and they say, well, I guess I'm going to be in a wheelchair, right? And that's not all the cases, because frankly, we have a ton of people we love and care for at NeuroWorks and friends that we've made who are paralyzed, and there's not a damn thing they can do about it. And frankly, when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask God why that is. Yeah. You know what I mean? But in some cases, like, there are people that definitely can get better and just don't do so because they accept that that's what it is. And when they go to the doctors and they say, you're going to live a great life in a wheelchair, they say, okay. Heidi never accepted that. And I don't know what the difference is. And again, like, there's a lot of questions I got for God, right? But I do know that there's something to do with our minds that have power over our bodies, because I've seen it firsthand with my wife. I can tell you that because she never wavered and she rode I'm going to try not to swear. She rode a bike today, 2 wheels, a bicycle.
Yeah, that was my next question for you. So this accident was a little over 5 months ago. Yeah. And her status today is she's riding a bike.
She rode a bicycle. Not
with training wheels.
I got a FaceTime. Well, the dude she in the hospital, they they let her ride a hand trike bicycle where it's a trike, but you power it by your hands. Once she got her arms going, this adaptive company, which is freaking great people and awesome, do killer things, come to the hospital and they let you demo these bikes and they fit you up and they get you in them and you get to ride around the hospital. She was she was the closest to her injury they've ever let anyone do that. Then she went from that to when we went to NeuroWorks, the adaptive people came back in and they said, we think you could paddle it with your legs. And she did. She jumped on it with a trike, but powering it with her legs. And then today I got a video from her therapist saying, Marcus, she FaceTimed me. She's like, you got to see this.
Hold on, let me, for the,
and she,
how pissed were you?
Dude, I was just happy that I don't care who's there, what happens, dude. It doesn't need to be me as long as she's getting better.
Yeah.
But she was on a bicycle and rode under her own power, started and stopped balancing herself.
Yeah.
And I mean, something in her mind is different and is allowing her to do these things.
I want to pull up the video here because obviously this is going to be a, was that on your page or Heidi's?
It's on mine or hers. It's linked.
I want to pull up some videos here because these episodes are also going on YouTube. So what I'm going to pull up here is this video of Heidi playing a bike. It says it's connected.
Yeah, I had to put Lil Jon on that. Hopefully I don't message for YouTube because she's a gangster.
Has to.
She's an absolute gangster.
So started with the trike.
Which that there was in the hospital when she was living on the rehab floor. This is at NeuroWorks in their parking lot.
This is the guys that came with the...
Yep, Wasatch Adaptive. Shout out to those guys.
I'm going to turn that music off just so that we don't get flagged for copyright.
And this is today inside the NeuroWorks gym.
That doesn't look like a para or quadriplegic riding a bike.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't talk about this all the time everywhere.
I do. I just don't want people to think that I'm not.
Don't be apologetic for it. If this inspires people like it does me, I don't know why you wouldn't share it with everybody all the time.
5 months ago, she fell off a bike and it literally paralyzed
And to
her.
be fair, she rides a bike better than I do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fact. So, Marcus, we don't need any more disclaimers because I know how you are and you don't. So it's important that everybody listening and watching understands that Marcus is not looking for sympathy. In fact, he'll get super pissed off if you try to give him any. He doesn't work like that. You're an emotional dude.
I'm an emotional dude.
But those emotions, when they come out, it's like you try to fist fight them on their way out.
Sure do.
You turn into this battle because you don't want to make your problem other people's problems, and that's one thing that I think that's probably why you guys have received so much love and help throughout this whole process.
And I will say this just because I know that there's people who are listening that attended that race. You know, the people that came to that race, everyone who was there, that race generated $30,000. And Brian Green, which is a good friend of both of ours, took that check straight down to NeuroWorks, and me and Heidi have not paid for therapy since, and we won't have to pay for quite a while. So it sucks to ask for help. It felt better doing something cool and fun that people could experience and not just ask for money. But at the end of the day, like everyone there who attended that race has a part in saying that they've helped my wife walk again.
Yeah, no, it's huge. And we'll leave some meat on that bone for the conversation with Heidi so that we can kind of get into the details. But
100%.
That's a big thing that's going on in your life right now. And
that's the only thing going on in my life right now.
That is true. And it sucks, but honestly, on the other side of it, actually, let me ask you that question.
Yeah.
Everybody says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Is that true?
Like I said, man, if I could trade this out today, if I could pay any amount of money, if I could make a deal with God and end my life to give her legs back, I would do that this second.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, we've had really cool experiences. We've met really cool people. We've seen the absolute best in humanity. We've seen, I don't know if you call them miracles or if you just call them Heidi's hard work and determination, but I feel like there's been a lot of that. And has it made us stronger as a family? Like, I never thought I could love my wife anymore, right? I love my wife more every single day, right? Which is good. But then it also kills me to watch what she's going through, right? I've seen my kids absolutely step up. I mean, my daughter's 15 years old, and she basically does laundry for our whole household. What 15-year-old kid, does that? Ask me if she ever complains or says anything. No. Every one of my kids has stepped up, and we're a tighter family. And what I tell Heidi, I'm like, look, if we wake up tomorrow and we realize that this is it, and this is all you get back, we're going to live a damn good life. And we will vacation, and we will play, and we will have hobbies, and we'll do whatever we're going to. Whether you're walking, not walking, wheelchair, whatever, I don't care. It's going to be okay.
Do you remember the phone conversation we had kind of shortly after this happened?
I probably sobbed through it.
Yeah, there was a little bit of crying.
Probably swore a lot.
From both of us, actually. Do you remember what I said because this goes to the whole fact that you don't love to receive help from people. In fact, you hate it, and the last thing you ever want to be is a charity case. And then I said, hey, there's people that need to help, and you need to let them help. Do you remember why I said that?
I remember this conversation, but I don't remember specific.
I said it was basically me convincing you to let people help, and it wasn't because I needed you to be okay with people helping you. It's because other people need that. So friends and family of Heidi, they want to support her. They want so badly for her pain to go away, or for her to not be experiencing what she's experiencing. Yeah. But since they can't control that, they need to be able to help in some way. And so you're actually helping other people heal by receiving their help. And the reason I say that is because I've had the opportunity to help people quite a bit over my, throughout my life. And I tell people sometimes I do it for selfish reasons, because the fulfillment and gratification that you get from providing service to somebody who needs it, honestly, in my life personally, there's no bigger high. That is the happiest I've ever been, is when I'm in the service of other people, which is obviously kind of a religious thing as well. But you're helping other people process this tragedy and work through it by allowing them to help you, because they need that. They need to feel like they are doing their part and thinking of somebody else.
So my buddy Matt Sturbins was at the moto track one day, and he'd set up this moto cell. That the amount of times that people have helped us through this thing is like, dude, I can go on for days. I mean, her friends did a Venmo thing. All this stuff just goes to Heidi's care. And that's one thing we haven't spent any money that anyone's given us on anything other than Heidi's care and doing things to help Heidi. But he set up this whole moto thing where people just came and brought their own old sets of boots and helmets, and he set up this whole thing, right? And he kept bringing me money, and anything was sold was just give to Heidi's recovery. And I was just like, dude, and it was really hard for me because he kept giving me cash in front of people, right? And I'm like, dude, I hate being a charity case. And he looked at me and said something that really sunk in. He said, Marcus, it's not charity, it's community.
Yeah.
And that sunk into me. And I'm like, you know what? If this happened to anybody else in any of my communities, I'd do the same damn thing. So that stuck out to me. It's not charity, it's community.
Yeah. No, it's not something. Yeah, I want to get into that more when we talk with Heidi, because there's a lot of different points I want to hit there that I think she'll be able to help us with. So with that said, we're going to kind of close that chapter of the conversation.
Sorry.
No. Don't apologize. That needs to be your checklist item. Stop apologizing for sharing. It's okay to share. It's healthy. It's good. You're supposed to talk. This is one thing that's been so hard for me. I just never felt the need to talk to people. I never felt the need to open up. I thought, if I'm going through something or I'm feeling something, then just internalize it and get through it and don't be a bitch. That's always kind of the way that I viewed it. As a man and a father, and, you're just kind of expected to just figure it out. You're supposed to figure out how to feed your family. You're supposed to figure out how to, pay for your kids to go to school, buy them new clothes. You're going to have to figure out how to keep your romance alive. You're going to have to do all of this while still staying healthy and not getting completely out of shape. A man has a lot on his shoulders, and we just kind of have been taught that you're a man, tough it out, right? Be a man. And we do that. We tough it out and we just get through it. But that doesn't mean that we can't share what we're really feeling with other people, because it turns out when we do that, a lot of times we'll solve our own problems by just speaking out loud, but other times you'll identify something like childhood trauma or something that you didn't think was a big deal at all. You remember being sad that day as a kid and that was it. Well, it turns out some of those experiences are like open wounds, right? And as a kid, you're scared of it. And so you just want to hide it. You want it to go away. And so you just try to forget about it rather than opening your eyes and acknowledging like, hey, that experience sucked. And that made me really, scared of this or resentful of that person. And now I understand that it was okay for that to happen to me. Obviously, it was essentially what you're doing is old you, which is now 38-year-old Dave, gets a chance to kind of sit down with 6-year-old Dave and just be like, hey, I know that was really scary. And I know that this was something that really affected you, but it's going to be okay. Like, you're going to be okay. This isn't going to be something that you have to hide from and run from and be scared of your whole life. I would almost guarantee you that every single person in the world has some of those things from their past, especially, childhood trauma and programming that affect how we act, why we act the way we do, why we do what we do, some of our bad behavior, how it's connected to those things. Like, guys, just talk about it. So this is going to be my checklist item today is, especially for,
who do you talk to?
Those dads, the men who are just kind of
who do you talk to?
Doing their best. Who do you talk to?
Yeah. Cause I ain't got, past 6 months has been like, you don't want to put it on your wife, dude, especially a wife like Heidi.
Turns out there's these things called therapists. And trust me, when I heard therapist, I was like, nope. I'm not going to go talk to some stranger. Well, I finally kind of caved and did it. And, the first session with a therapist is always kind of like getting to know you. It's a little bit weird.
How do you pick a therapist? Because I'll be honest, man.
Referrals.
Like, how do you find someone you're going to, because I'll be like, dude, this guy's a cheese dick.
You ask me. You ask a friend, you ask your dad, so you just ask people for referrals, because you can go to the yellow pages, if those still exist, and pull up therapist and probably find somebody. And most therapists are good. They all have kind of a system or a process that they use to help you unpack information, because that's what they go to school for. But to answer your question, I would give you a referral to somebody that I felt comfortable talking to. And I will tell you that the first 1 or 2 conversations, you're not going to like it. It's not fun because it's playing that get to know you game and you're trying to figure out what's this person angle, but they're trained to be able to get you through that hard part and into a part where you look forward to going and speaking to this complete stranger, because you're not going to tell them what's wrong with you. You're not going there to just, bag on yourself. What you're doing is you're going to have a conversation with somebody and they're going to kind of help you rewind the clock and scan through different areas of your life where trauma may have existed. They're going to help you identify that trauma, and you're going to be able to sit there and look at it and say, oh, I guess that really wasn't that bad.
Keaton, have you been to a therapist?
No.
Well,
the traditional sense, no.
Yeah, except for his mom is my therapist.
Yeah, I was going to say, so a therapist essentially is somebody that you talk to, is what he's getting at. I've spent a lot of money speaking to people. I don't know if I would call them therapists or mentors or coaches or gurus or maybe just self-help people. But if you broaden that spectrum of what a therapist is, which is what Dave's saying, which is someone to talk to, yes, the answer is yes, I have.
And when you're talking about talking to somebody and opening up, there's obviously some different options. Everybody's like, oh, call a friend. You got a close friend you can call, or call a family member. I've been sad and pissed off and down to just the freaking end of my rope. The last thing I want to do is call somebody and tell them about it, right?
That is literally the last thing you want to do.
Yeah.
Zero desire whatsoever. There have been moments where I've been so hard on myself and just really, really given myself just a ass whooping mentally. And there's in that moment, you just literally the last thing you would ever consider doing, as a man.
Hey, buddy, can I talk to you about my problems?
Yeah. No.
But there really is an actual system in place with the people we're talking about that allows them to help you walk through what you should walk through to get where you want to go. Because you know the biggest problem, and we've already said it 10 times, is that most men don't have anybody to talk to. And really, it's not that. It's most men don't have anybody to lean on, get support from, and then bounce off out of their own brain the ideas that are deep, deep inside of them. That's really what you're talking about. And to be able to sit down with a friend and say, hey, man, can I talk to you? They're not really equipped to go through the whole process with you that a therapist, quote unquote.
Yeah, a friend is not going to help you fix the issue. A friend is going to help you.
Hopefully they'll listen.
Survive. They're going to help you. They're going to empathize and sympathize with you, and they're going to make you feel some sort of warmth and love. But if it's not a friend who knows, therapy and that whole process, they're not gonna be able to go back and say, hey, so, let's talk about that time your mom dropped you off at kindergarten and you got abandonment issues. Like, I didn't know that was a thing for me, but sure enough, like I always, it wasn't abandonment issues. I always felt like on a family trip or something, if we went with extended family, if other families left before I did, and I was like the last one there, or if somebody leaves early, you did this to me once in Lake Powell. I was so pissed. You left the day before that we were supposed to leave. And it wasn't like a big deal, but I get this just anxious feeling. When I was a missionary, same thing. When missionaries that I was friends with would leave the mission after their 2 years was up and go home, it was like the most end of the world awful feeling that I couldn't explain. So I didn't want to talk to anybody about it because it felt dumb. It felt weird.
But it affected your life like crazy.
It affected my life forever.
That's why you're always the person, and we all know it sitting here, that leaves first. You always fucking bolt and leave first in any situation.
Let me think about that.
Hold on. Where's Hands at? Who always leaves first whenever we go anywhere? That guy right there. But so, and I'm not trying to call you out. What I am trying to do is I'm saying, and this is why this is important, things that made you what you do or are, they came from some kind of trauma, and then you do them into your life, and then they affect shit. So if you don't go to a therapist or a mentor or somebody, right, who's equipped to deal with it, they then dig in with you and go, hey man, that's why your friend is pissed at you, because you leave him all the time somewhere, and you're like, holy shit, I do that because I don't want him to leave first. And then when you can understand a situation, you can actually fix that entire situation. So to give you this, Marcus, I'm a mentor. That's what I do. I have over 100 men. Now I have women too. I mentor women too. I have over 100 men on a weekly basis that I sit in my office with, and I say, let's talk about where you're at in your life, and let's figure out why you do what you do. And you know why that's so important? You are the sum total of your thoughts. And we did this exercise the other day on my Limitless call. You go all the way back to what gives you your thoughts. Where do your thoughts come from? Because if I'm the sum total of them, I should fix them. Well, in therapy, with what Dave's talking about, you actually can go back and rewire the way you think, which then changes what you do, how you act, what you choose, and then everything begins to get better. And I think that's the whole purpose of this entire conversation is, what can you do to get better? Well, you should talk to somebody. And it would be really cool if it was a therapist or a mentor or a guru, somebody who can help you walk through your thoughts and fix what needs to be fixed.
Can you think of an experience, and you don't have to share what it is, but can you think of a time when you were a kid where something happened and you were like, this is a big deal, or this is life-changing, and then you just kind of moved on and you never really dealt with it again?
No, I think it's as I get older, I never thought about it when I was a kid, and now things have happened that I look back and I'm like, oh shit.
So that's the thing. That's just you using kind of your adult memory. So a therapist allows you to go and kind of access your childhood memory and see things that, dude, they are the dumbest things too. I had these abandonment feelings because, there's a deeper cause to it. But the main thing that I could point back to was I didn't like getting dropped off for school in kindergarten. I was the youngest. I had so much time with my mom. I was really close with her. And when she would drop me off at kindergarten, I would just sob and sob and sob. And so we dug a little bit deeper into why that was happening. Turns out, when I was born, my dad had a brain tumor and he was supposed to die. Like, he was going to die. The doctor at one point, I think they have it written down somewhere, like his prognosis or whatever, saying that like, you have 3 weeks to live, make the best of it. He actually, him and my mom were so convinced that he was dying that he went and they got a VHS camera and did an interview of himself. Like he sat in a chair and he basically talked to each kid, saying, I love you. You know, this is how I feel, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to be here when you're born or when you're old enough to remember. The guy was supposed to just, you know, die. And so my mom was constantly living in this fear of my dad dying. So constant anxiety of being abandoned by her husband. Well, when you're born, generational trauma doesn't just disappear. Like, think about it this way. If eating lunch meat for a pregnant person or pregnant girl is bad and it could potentially hurt the baby, what could trauma, like days and nights without sleep and just being at your wit's end, don't you think maybe that could also enter the baby? Because those are stronger emotions than sliced lunch meat. Yeah. And so I inherited some of that trauma that my mom had from, you know, being about losing her husband, and me growing up not wanting to lose my dad, and I'm just stressed out. And it was just always this constant stress that somebody was going to leave or die. And then getting dropped off of school just amplified it. Now I know where it came from. And I'm able to literally, I sat with your mom. Keaton's mom is my therapist that I talk with sometimes. And she's like, Dave, you're not broken and you're not wrong for doing what you're doing. You're just, when you get triggered and feel that, you know, feeling, you kind of just go into survival mode, and you don't want to have to feel that way that you felt when you were a kid any longer than you have to. So you just kind of like, you create this kind of negative feedback loop where all you're doing is focusing on the thing that you don't want, which ultimately attracts you to the thing that you don't want. And then just these, yeah. Anyways, it was very interesting to be able to dive back and view that from 10,000 feet rather than being in the picture myself, as I was as a kid. So you take a step back, you look at it, you process those emotions, you feel those feelings, you think about what this means and how it ultimately affects your life, and you put it where it belongs. It's no longer this, you know, overheating top of the red line buzzard that's just like constantly going off subconsciously that we don't know about, because as a kid it was this huge problem. Well, now as an adult I can go back and say, I'm okay. That was okay. That was okay. It happened to me, and I can move on and be okay. And I'm going to put that down where it belongs. And then I'm just going to acknowledge that it happened. It's a feeling, it's an emotion that I had, but it's no longer going to control me in a way that causes me to do things that are harmful to relationships or harmful to myself. Like you just start looking a little bit deeper and seeing things that like red alarms that have been going off for years that we just never would take the time to dig into. And dude, life is so much better when you get that shit off your chest.
You know, you said it the other day on the call when we were on the call. All of us have this childhood trauma that our childhood brain couldn't cope with and deal with, but now we're adults and our adult brain can deal with them. So to be able to go back and deal with those is how you work through shit.
I'll tell you, dude, one of the most productive and helpful exercises a therapist ever did with me was tell me to close my eyes and literally picture this version of me today sitting right next to that little 6-year-old boy, myself, and just like give him a hug and be like, bro, it's okay. Yeah. You comfort yourself and you provide yourself with you resolve a problem without having to have some sort of external influence do it, and have somebody else has to be involved to solve it for you. No, you just go back and you work through stuff. That's why therapy is so important, dude.
Was that Mike Olson
that did that?
Yeah,
I think actually Mike Olson did that once, but that wasn't. I think it was
he did
Andrea.
That once with me too.
Andrea.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's how powerful is that? Can you imagine that, or does that just sound goofy to you?
I don't think I'm there yet, man. Yeah.
When will you be there? You're almost 40.
Well, damn, dude, just throw me under the bus. I mean,
No, bro.
You know what?
And the reason I say that,
you know why I like this though, is because it is a huge dichotomy. I think most men are like Marcus.
that's what we talk about
Probably.
all the time.
I really do. I think most men are like that, and I think
What do you mean, badass?
Yeah, super cool.
super cool. So no, just
right.
against something, and not. I shouldn't even say against, but not open to something that doesn't necessarily sound like it makes me sound strong. It makes me sound weak. Because I think most people look at it like, well, if I need a mentor or I need a therapist, I'm weak.
I don't think that.
Then why aren't you open to it?
Because the only thing I give anything about right now is getting my wife better.
But if you get better,
hold
give her more?
You just set yourself up.
Don't get me wrong.
What I'm saying
handle everything
is
very
better,
well.
But a better you gives her better.
Yeah, but I do everything.
You don't think that you don't think that you could like Heidi's on a wild healing journey right now.
Yep. Physically.
Exactly. So you couldn't join that? I mean, it's not going to take a bunch of your time. I'm talking about if you went and talked to somebody 1 hour every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Why wouldn't you do that?
Well, I'll tell you one thing right now. Okay. Taking care of Heidi full time, which has gotten significantly better because she can drive and she goes to therapy.
She can drive now?
Yeah. She told me one day, I think I could drive. I'm like, bullshit. And she's like, so I was like, they have like a simulator at her therapy. And she passed the simulator. So I took her to her parking lot. And she jumped in like it was nothing. And I said, okay, drive home. And she's been driving since.
By herself?
By herself.
That's incredible. I didn't know that.
But taking care of Heidi still is a full-time job, and there's still things that she's limited to that she needs assistance with that pretty much only I can do, and I won't go into details, right? Then I have 4 kids that are in guitar, drums, ukulele, dance, tumbling, student leadership in elementary school. And then on top of that, you stack a business on where like today I got up at, got Heidi ready, went straight to a walkthrough. Then I had to go set up a gig. Tomorrow morning, I've got to be at the Expo Center at 5:15 in the morning to turn all the gear on just saying, being a husband, being a caretaker, being a provider, and the business owner, it's just, I'm pretty maxed out. And everybody says that and they say they don't have time. But then again, I still go to the gym and I still do other things, yada, yada, yada. But
so I think the obvious observation for me in this is
I could drink that water. I drink my own water. Can I have your water?
Yeah, you can have the water. You're spread so thin, and ultimately you're using a lot of your energy, a lot of your internal resources, and you are burning energy like crazy.
Sure.
If you're not, and I know you do things to refill the tank. You go to the gym, you ride your dirt bike sometimes, whatever.
Sold the dirt bike. Can't get hurt.
Sold the dirt bike. Yeah, you don't have a lot of outlets right now.
Music. I've been playing music.
That's right. You did. Yeah, and you got really good at music. Started a band.
Yeah.
You're using a lot of your energy, and you've got a couple different ways where you can kind of refill the tank. But would it not benefit you and your family more if you weren't close to running on E? Dad had 3/4 tank, and he's ripping along, and he's doing good, and he's mentally able to process things outside of just survival mode, because that's what you've been living in.
I feel like I'm pretty good.
I know you are.
Like, I'm a good dad. I'm a damn good dad. I'm a damn good husband. And
I can tell you personally, though, as your best friend, you've got childhood shit that affects you and the way you behave and act today that could be resolved.
You trying to say I act weird or something? What are you trying to tell me?
No, you know how I feel about you. But everybody's got their quirks and their weird little behaviors, and there's probably things I don't even know about. But I know just a little about your upbringing, and it's not just the standard.
Let's just keep it to what's going on right now.
Yeah, it does. I'm not going to dig into your family history, but I'm saying
I think the point of what he's saying is there is a lot of shit, and it really is something that you could.
It's a weird thing.
You could benefit.
It's a weird thing. Say, hey, I'm going to go talk to someone, and I don't know where to start. And frankly,
I agree,
dude. I'm a weird person where I don't really like being around people I don't like. So it's like, go to a therapist.
Okay, so you just explained me too, though.
Weird.
You just explained me.
But I'm like, dude, go talk to some like cheese dick dude and be like, I feel bad. Yeah. I mean, it's a weird thing.
It is. I love that because I think you're the majority of people that don't do that. I agree. Like, I get exactly what you're saying because I've been there. It's just, I think, again, I'll die by this saying, I think that you would benefit a lot.
Would you have a conversation with Keaton's mom? Like, not going in and saying this is going to be a healing session. Literally, don't set up any premise of what it's going to be. Just you and her sit down and commit to having a conversation for an hour.
She asked me what I do for a living. I mean,
no, she's not. I don't think she cares what you do for a living.
You'll be absolutely shocked where the conversation goes. I'd bet you money on it. I really would put a solid bet.
Well, here's a better question. If it made you a better husband and father and man, would you do it?
I think I'm a better husband and dad than 99%.
That's not what I'm asking.
But are you the best that Marcus can be?
That's not what I'm asking. I'm saying
I don't think my kids or my wife have suffered for anything that
I think you're great too. Don't get me wrong there. I'm asking if it made you better because you're not 100%. I'll stand by that one. Listen, I'll back you into a corner only if you tell me you're the greatest you could ever be because you're not. And I think you're a damn good dad and a damn good husband. But that's the question I'm asking is if it made you better, would it be worth it?
Sure.
Okay. That's the only question I have.
Yeah.
And I think essentially what's trying to be portrayed is it can. That's it. And again, dude, I think most people like this. Most people aren't in a place where they're ready to do it. And I think it's also why 99% of people have childhood trauma passed down from their grandfather and their great-grandfather and their father and so on and so forth.
It's just really hard to say you need help or you need to go see someone when, you know, your wife is learning how to walk again and learning how to write with her left hand and still has no use in her right hand and is limited and can't do anything.
When in all reality, that's when you should accept it the most. When shit hits hard, as we've all three here been in a position like that, like when shit hits hard, that's when you need it the most. Because the reality is, again, statistically, that's why men commit suicide. That's why men lose their shit. That's why they go off crazy. Because when life hits, you do exactly what we all think, and that's I got to step up and I got to take care of everything. It's not about me. I got to do this. I got to take care of my wife. I got to take care of my kids. I got to take care of my ex-wife. When again, in all reality, the only difference that could change or make you better. And again, dude, I agree with you. I've watched you with Heidi, dude. It's inspiring as shit. But if you could be better, why wouldn't you look at it and or try it? You know,
and not just be better, but feel better, like. When you lighten the load and you get these things off your chest, dude, by nature, you just feel lighter and you just feel, for me, it was more of a feeling of like hope because when I started kind of feeling just really down, I didn't feel depressed. I didn't feel suicidal. I didn't feel like the world was going to end. I just kind of lost that glimmer of like looking forward to the future and to new things and to growing and to like continuing to have a good life. I didn't really think that anymore. I just kind of thought like, this is the status quo, this is what life's going to be. And I'll just kind of have to enjoy what I can enjoy and get through what I don't. And when I started to feel like better, I started to like view the future again without even like consciously thinking about it. I didn't have to be like, all right, let me sit down and think about some goals in the future. Like I would just start naturally dreaming up and imagining and having thoughts of like all these cool things that I plan on doing in the future. And it gave me this ambition and a drive that I hadn't felt for years. It took me back to like when I was first starting in my business and first married, like just hungry. And, you know, with success and stuff comes this horrible thing called complacency. And complacency just basically tells you that you're okay where you're at and you should just stay there because that's the easiest way. You don't have to really, you know, do much more because what does much more mean? Like you lose that. What's the next deal? What's the next exciting thing that I want to do? What's the next talent or skill that I want to develop? You just kind of stop thinking about that, or I did anyways. And so getting that back, man, it's like I got a time machine. So for me, that's just one of the many things that I was able to kind of like work through and understand. And it's not just made me hopefully a better friend and a better person, which I'm trying to be every day, but it's made me a better, like me. And I think I was probably a lot like you where I thought like, I'm the best me I am. Can't get better than me, but it can. And it happened.
So let me ask you this then. Heavy Checklist podcast. We always end with a checklist. You talking about the average person, they're probably a lot like me, is the checklist item for them to get therapy. And let's say that a dude isn't in a position to get therapy. What do?
I think almost.
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
Because I think a lot of people are in that position too. My suggestion, and this goes way preface to what you're asking. I've learned in my life, if I'm not willing to walk into any situation with my mind open, I'm already losing in any situation. My checklist item would be for those of you who think that what we're speaking about is like bananas. You should just be willing to open up your mind to understand that there are ways out there that can make you a better father, a better husband,
You're
a better
really
man.
calling me out here, aren't you?
No, it's not you.
No, I get it.
It's not you, Marcus. It's the majority of men. And yes, you fall in that line because, again, I work with, this is all I do every day. But dude, I'm not kidding you. I would look everybody in this room right now in the eye and tell you there's not a better father than me. There's not a better husband than me. I think I'm incredibly good at those things. But if you asked me, could I do something to do better? I would say yes. And if you ask me what that is, I would say I don't know. And if you ask me, am I willing to look at other things to become better? I would say yes 100 times, because I'm willing to be open to the whole all of it. You know, I mean, everything. I never want to go into a situation and say, nope, that's not for me. I would rather go in and say, I'm going to chew on it. And before I swallow it, I'm going to decide if I like what it is. And you know, again, I don't necessarily think everybody's therapy. I don't necessarily think everybody's a mentor or everybody's a guru. What I do think is there are hundreds and hundreds of ways for men to open up, get support, and beat trauma. And they don't look at any of them because they give the exact answer you gave, which was, no, I'm good. I'm good at what I'm doing.
What does the average guy do?
So there's
question.
There's a bunch of different ways. Let's talk about just the professional therapy route, right? You can go get a therapist.
How do you find a non-cheese dick?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's ultimately,
it's hard.
Ultimately, the
It's
first
hard.
thing you're going to do if you're actually let me start with people who don't want to go see a therapist. There's websites like BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a basically an app that you jump on and you can talk with a therapist, and they're professional, but they're remote, and it's like $60 to $80 a week is the subscription. So it's like $300 a month if you want to do this BetterHelp. And then you can constantly try out new therapists if you don't like the one you're using. So that's a cheap, easy way to do it. Like, there's no excuse. Like, you're going to spend $300 a month on cheeseburgers. So why not take that $300 a month and spend it on something that could potentially change your, that's actually so accurate. You probably do. Yeah. So, and I'm not saying you got to stop eating cheeseburgers. All I'm saying is that if somebody's on a tight budget, and I'm not talking about your budget, I'm talking about somebody who's just listening, who doesn't know where to start. That's a cheap way to do it. There's obviously hotlines that you can call, but those are more for like kind of red button moments where you're feeling like it might not be worth living anymore. So you could call there, but I think the real value you're going to get is by finding somebody who actually takes the time to get to know you, and that it doesn't happen on one session. I remember after my first session,
you got to do a few with a few different people, especially if you don't like them.
Yeah, before you quit anybody, I mean, unless right off the bat you're like, oh, this guy is not for me. Like, if there's something quirky
cheese
about
dick.
Yeah, if he's like full blown cheese dick, I found that women are way easier to talk to. I wouldn't go talk to a dude if I were you. I would talk to a woman, and the reason why I could get into your childhood from what I know about it, why I think a woman would be a better fit for you, but
do that.
But you've always trusted your mom and you love your mom, and so find somebody that you could kind of trust in the same way, and just talk to them. That'd be my suggestion. I think if you're willing to like commit to a checklist item, I would say your checklist item should be having a 1 hour conversation with Keaton's mom.
Yeah, she's phenomenal.
Actually, she's not gonna sit you down and say, dude, I think the first time she sat me down, she's like, you're a crazy fucker. and was like, what have you been up to? That. Like, she just like, she tricked me into having a conversation. Like, it was just flowing. So that would be an awesome checklist item. I think it would change your life if you go that route. And I think that goes, for all the listeners, every single one of you listening to this, and not just men, this goes, we have a lot of women that listen to the show too. If you're not talking to somebody on a professional level about just your life, you should give it a shot. Just try it out, but don't just go one time and say that wasn't for me. Like I said, if you go and you have somebody that you get paired up with a therapist wise and there's no chemistry, as far as feeling comfortable with this person, move on. But if you do find somebody that you feel okay talking to, you got to give them at least 2 or 3 sessions, because the first one is literally just kind of them knocking on the door. And I feel like for you, Marcus, it's going to go one of 2 ways.
Oh, it's going to take 100 sessions.
It's going to go one of 2 ways. It's either going to be one knock and the door flies off the hinges and you just open up because you're kind of a hot or cold guy, all or nothing, or it's going to take you 100 sessions.
Yeah.
No, I think it won't.
I think it would with the wrong therapist. I think it would if you...
With the right therapist, I don't think...
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's no way you would open up. So that's why finding the right therapist is the biggest deal. Therapy is not just therapy. It's not like just buying, a black box that you could get the same black box at any store. It's not, dude. Every person is different, and you gotta shop around and find that person that matches your personality, because dude, they will change your life. And it sounds so dumb. It sounds so cliche, like, oh, go get help, go get therapy. But you know what? They say it for a reason.
Yeah.
It is the people who truly understand it and process it, or at least give it a shot. I think I don't know of anybody who I've ever talked to that could tell me they regretted it.
Has Hans ever had therapy?
I don't think so. Hans has done a little bit of hypnosis here on the show.
Hans, you had therapy before?
I will tell you this. Let go.
It's a yes or no.
One time on this show, Dave brought in a therapist.
I was there.
Tricked me into meeting with him. It was a trick. Literally tricked him.
Why did you get tricked?
It was like, hey, come up to my office real quick. Then there's a therapist in there. Then he goes over my childhood drama. I'll say this, Marcus, because I'm 1,000% like you. I don't do that stuff. I think it's stupid. I think it's unnecessary. I get where you're coming from. I'm way more like you than I am like them.
Way more.
I will say, I would do it again with him.
Fair enough.
And I say that because, not because I left there thinking like, oh, I'm an idiot or any of that, but I left there thinking like, it all makes sense now. If that makes sense. Like, it's not like it made sense on like why I am who I am.
So the answer is yes.
Tricked into it. Was it worth it? 100%. Would I do it again with that gentleman? 100%. Would I call somebody randomly and set up a time to do it myself right now and it's a random person? No. Would I do it with him again? Yes.
There you go.
Amen.
And that's speaking for pretty much every man out there.
Yeah, because Hans is like Marcus. He's very anti-help, going and getting it.
Checklist. We have mine, but what about everybody else?
Reschedule my next therapy appointment.
Or maybe the checklist is really simple. Find somebody that you can connect with to talk to. On a professional level, not go find a friend to talk to, but on a professional level.
Yeah, I think that's the main checklist item. And I'm being serious. Like, I got to the point where I had a bunch of, great sessions and start feeling really good and unpacking stuff. And then you think that you're okay. You think you're like good because you feel a little bit better. And so you get to the point where you're like, no, I'm good. I worked it out. I feel great. Because going is still uncomfortable. It still sucks. But the benefit after each session is worth it. So I got to the point where I was comfortable, and I forgot to reschedule. It's been longer than I was supposed to have gone without it. And so I got to take it and make it, take it serious, just as seriously as you, because I don't want to go for all the same reasons that you don't want to go. Don't like it. It's not fun, especially, yes, there's some sessions where it just sucks, but I feel better in so many different ways. And, I feel lighter. And like I said, I've got that hope and optimism. So that's all available to you. It's just a matter of whether you decide to give it a shot. And you've tried crazier things. I don't see why you wouldn't try this.
Very true.
In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
That was a little Mormon joke for all of you listening and didn't know that we are all members of the Church of Jesus Christ. And that's us.
Yeah.
This has been a good session.
Went a little sideways. I think we started off talking about vision boards.
We did.
Well, that's the cool thing about our podcast. There's no real direction.
Or is it one direction?
It's got, is it north or south, though?
Oh, we'd definitely be at north facing, wouldn't we?
Well, then we went west today.
Oh, we took yeah, you're right. We got a little western. But no, guys, this is all stuff that, you know, I'm just speaking from experience. I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything. Like, if I went to therapy and it sucked, I wouldn't be sitting here telling you, like, dude, you should check it out. Because I'm not going to sit here and suggest something that sucks. Or I am going to sit here and suggest something that sucks, but knowing that on the other side of that suck is more happiness that you can tap into. It's pretty cool. It's really cool, actually. Once you start understanding it, and you just, I don't know, man. I'm telling you, it's like that feeling of like being a kid again. You have these dreams and the ambitions and these goals, and they're just naturally coming to you like they used to. I think that's a big deal for me. All right, guys. With that said, I think we'll wrap up tonight's episode. There's so many things I wanted to cover, but we're going to be doing this more regularly so we can cover them on the next
week. We'll have 2 consecutive episodes, one week after another.
Sorry,
God
dude.
bless.
We can't quit yet. We had a bunch. We promised some questions, so we're going to go through a couple questions. Hunter, remember Hunter? He was on the podcast before. Yeah, Hunter Goodrich worked.
Of course I do.
At the shop for a while. He just texted me this after I put up the Instagram story. He said, "Where do you guys draw most of your energy from? Like, what is a go-to thing you'll think about to keep you pushing forward?" And he says the caveat is, if family is your number one, then what motivators come next after that? Looking for answers.
That's my number one.
I'm pretty sure you wrote that just for you. Looking for answers that could apply to myself and others that don't have a wife or kids. Where do you draw most of your energy from?
Don't know what to tell you. My energy comes from my wife and my children.
I like stuff. Like, dude, if I get something in my head, like yours is a Black Hawk helicopter, right? Mm-hmm. Mine recently has been like, I bought a 65 F100 on a Crown Vic swap. And I remember it was like, okay, I want that. Well, obviously got to earn some money to do that, right? And then I just bought a 2013 Harley Road Glide that's salvage title that I wanted to rebuild over the winter. So obviously there's things, and I got to take family out of it. So, cause there's paying for therapy and everything else and all that's going on. Right. But honestly, man, if you want to do things, if you want to see places, if you want to go on vacation, if you want to drive cool things, if you want to have projects, you got to be motivated to do it. And that motivates me. And I don't know if that's bad to say, but
no,
stuff.
It's a great motivator. I mean, it's
trips,
it's
things, fun.
Carrot on the end of the stick. We got to have
I don't like
incentive.
working, but I like what it leads to doing fun things, you know?
I would say for me, you will find the most amount of energy in balance. There's no one place you can just go to get like re-energized, refocused, and like have consistent, sustainable energy. There's just nothing that I know of that can do. And I've looked. Trust me.
Wait. Hold on. Time out. You're saying you get energy from balance?
I feel the most energetic when I start to balance my life out.
You're the least balanced person I've ever met in my life.
Exactly.
Okay. Exactly. That's why I want to clear it up.
I'm not. I am the least balanced person you'll meet.
Okay. But
as I slide and shift towards finding balance, even if I only change the ratio by 1 or 2%, I feel better.
You get energy from that.
Exactly. And so I would recommend that anybody who, you know, don't go try to find that fountain of youth thing that's going to make you just recharged every time you think about it, but instead realize that it takes multiple pillars to support, you know, this platform. And if one of those is shorter than the other, then all of a sudden you start to have, you start spending more time and energy thinking negatively and resolving problems in your life than you would be able to actually, you know, if you had all that stuff balanced out, you'd have all that energy in reserve. You wouldn't have spent it on negative, you know, bullshit.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy how much energy we naturally have, but we just freaking have so many things that drain it, and we just let them drain it. We don't stop it. Sometimes it's because we're not aware of it, and sometimes because we just don't have the energy to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's such a wild cycle, man. It's one thing that, it's,
you know what? I got a different one. Because, I mean, the majority of mine really is my children and sometimes my wife that I draw energy from. I will say my father, who passed away, I spend a lot of time in conversations with him, and I feel like I draw a lot of energy from that. That might be a different one than children. And
what do you mean? You draw energy from
conversations with him,
with your dad? Now?
Yeah. Out. Most people would look at it like prayer, right? But I'm not praying to my dad, but like real conversations with my dad, who's for those of you who don't know, my dad passed away 15 years ago. I spend a lot of time, I would say every day. It's usually when I'm in the sauna or in my meditation, I spend actual conversations with my father, and I find a ton of energy through those conversations. So that's a different one than children in life.
I like that.
I'd like to have a conversation with your dad.
Oh man,
I'd like that.
Because he'd tell me I'm one of the good guys.
That man.
Is that what he
if he was still alive, he would have a podcast more popular than Rogan's.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm not joking. Like, that dude was just so I didn't get any of his social skills because he talked to everybody and anybody, and we would go to New York and get in a cab, and if somebody had a little less than white skin, he would welcome them to America, and he didn't matter who, he would ask them where they're from. Obviously when he was so raw and unfiltered that even though it was extremely offensive, sometimes people didn't take it as offensive because they just like, oh, this guy like genuinely just wants to interact with me.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. I got the opposite of that. I don't like small talk. So anyways, hopefully that answered your question, Hunter. Next, we'll go one or two more here. Okay.
Yeah, shout out to Hunter. He came to my last concert. He was in the mosh pit. Yeah, God bless.
Hunter's good guy.
Good people.
Hunter. Okay, here's a good one. Every time I get a small win, I feel okay. This is from, I'm gonna go back. This is from Area Rick 2 on Instagram, and hopefully he doesn't mind that we're sharing this. Every time I get a small win, I feel some imposter syndrome and gain no momentum. More of a statement, not so much a question, but we can talk on that because I never knew what imposter syndrome was.
I have no idea what that is.
Buckle up. It's the weirdest thing. Imposter syndrome is something that people who achieve some sort of success or become, let's say, and it doesn't have to be just this, but let's use it for an example. Somebody becomes famous for being an actress. Okay. They start to not feel like the famous person that the world is seeing. Like, everybody views you as this, and they start to not really truly believe that that's who they are, and so they question their identity. They feel like they're faking it.
I'll tell you what it's like for me, because imposter syndrome is for everybody. You know, again, I told you I started doing like mentoring and helping people. I question myself all the time. Am I really worth it to help these people? No matter how good I get and no matter how many people I help, I still ask that question, and I have that imposter syndrome where I'm like, am I really doing anything?
Am I
really
qualified
helping?
to really answer
that's
that?
the word. Am I qualified to be doing this? And you know, the one thing that helped me a lot is I spent a lot of time in the last 2 or 3 years with really famous people. I mean, we get to spend time with all kinds of crazy cool people, and I've never met anyone in my life that didn't at some point feel imposter syndrome. So for me, I was like, oh, good. Okay. Everybody feels it. So if everybody feels it, then I should just learn how to work through it.
Yeah, it's normal, I guess.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's basically what it is self-doubt.
Yeah.
And sometimes life happens faster than we can even process.
I think it's self-doubt and a sense of humility. Yeah. Like sometimes you're just like, no, I'm not as good as they're saying, so I'm not that person. When in all reality, you are who they're saying, you know?
I'm looking for one more question.
Let's get a good one, Dave.
I feel like those were both pretty good.
Good. Well, the last one wasn't a question. It was just a statement.
Yeah, true. This is an interesting one.
The way you say it makes me really worried.
It says, what was the biggest regret and the biggest win from Diesel Power Gear? It's a very direct
That's a
question.
whole podcast.
Yeah, it is a whole podcast. So, oh, man. Diesel Power Gear, for those of you listening who don't know, it was the apparel company that we started in 2012 when we wanted to start giving away trucks. And it was a great company. We sold a lot of a lot of different.
Was this one of the biggest regrets?
Nice. For those of you who can't see what's happening, our podcast desk is basically the flatbed of a pickup, and there's exhaust stacks, and we've plumbed smoke to come out of the it's basically just like fog from a party. So no, it's not polluted, and it comes out white, but that's the button. When you ever hear this rumbling, the smoke starts coming out. For those of you watching this,
I was wondering what the rumbling was.
Look at that.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Anyways, Diesel Power Gear was this company that we formed, sold diesel merchandise. It was a big company. I think our biggest year was like $30 million in revenue one year. And we recently closed that company down for a variety of different reasons, which I'll probably have to talk about in another podcast. But, oh man, biggest regret.
You don't have a lot of regrets.
I don't regret much. No, like if there's things that I could have done differently, I probably would have gone back.
But you still don't regret stuff.
No,
that's what I'm saying. I don't think you have very many regrets.
I don't know how to regret. I really don't know if I ever learned how to regret. I'm talking about just thinking about things that I could change. I don't know. I will have to cover that in a different episode because there's so many, like, the company went through phases.
That really should be a whole episode because I think people should hear about what you did there, and they should hear the whole story.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but I also never liked it. I didn't like apparel. I never wanted to be in the t-shirt business. We came up with that company because we wanted to give away a truck, and we knew that doing like a raffle was illegal, a raffle for profit. So we learned the sweepstakes model, and we knew that we needed to sell something. So we started by selling these rubber wristbands, bracelets that said Diesel Power on them. And they started selling like crazy, and then it became a t-shirt and apparel company. And I just wasn't passionate about it. I was not passionate about making shirts or trying to figure out apparel. So are you guys dying? What's happening?
No, I just got a tickle in my throat. Won't go away.
Is it the fog? Did we overfog?
I might be allergic to the fog.
Yeah. Anyways, Diesel Power Gear is no longer a business, and I'll explain to you guys all one day what happened and what I learned and what to avoid.
I mean, on both, like on a really small scale for me, both you and I have had massive apparel companies.
Kingdom.
Do you remember that dude, the tattoo artist who did most of the designs? Carl?
Yes, Carl.
Story for another day, but...
Is he still around?
I don't know.
That guy did some great designs.
I thought so.
Yeah. The apparel, we've all done the apparel thing. It's, I think everybody kind of, that's the first thing you go into, like when you're trying to get into a lifestyle. You just go for like a t-shirt, start, selling t-shirts. So, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's also, it wasn't for me. And so needed to think bigger, and we are thinking much bigger now. And I'm hungry again. I'm not stuck running a company that I wasn't really enjoying. That's fun. It's like getting a new job, but you're still your own boss. Pretty cool. Let's see if there's one last one that we can then close out on.
We should do a question we actually finish the answer.
So when you said you were hungry, did you need us another slice of this pineapple pizza?
I'm going to have some.
You want me to read the question so you can have a bite? That's a whole lot of questions.
Yeah, you're just scrolling through a whole entire two-page.
We got hundreds of questions here, guys. A lot of them are like about flying, pilot's license. Oh, what happened with Nikola?
Oh, good. Another podcast episode question.
Nikola news coming very, very, very soon, guys. There's been some humongous things happening in the background between me and that project. And they are all pretty much ready to be released and talked about. So definitely not sweeping that under the rug. It's going to be something real big, real soon, and you guys will see it. I'm going to do some videos on it, and it's going to be pretty awesome. That's what happened. Nikola as a whole, after they threw Trevor out and tried to, just do, they tried to just go back to trucks only, and turns out the market doesn't really care about trucks. Nobody was like caring about electric semis, and so they lost all their momentum and steam on the market, and the way the company was ran. I think there's some things they could have done better, and I don't think any of that would have ever happened when Trevor was there, because he was on a rocket ship trajectory, and he got he got taken out maliciously because somebody made a lot of money doing it. It sucked. But I think the company, can't say much more about it than that.
Next podcast.
Yeah. All right. Anything you guys want to add? We got our checklist items, which is basically kind of one, which is go find somebody to talk to, and not just like a friend, conversation with a friend. And I know that's where everybody says start. Just go, talk with a friend, get it off your chest. That's about 1% as effective as going to somebody who's trained and being able to work through this. So go do it. So with that said, hopefully we'll see you guys here next week, right?
2 weeks in a row is all we can guarantee. Stay tuned for episode 2. Is this season 2, season 3, season 4?
Where's the sound effect?
You gotta turn this up.
Oh, I hit way too many.
You pushed them all.
All right, let me try this. Let me show you guys some of our. Why won't it stop?
Good.
There we go. Oh, wait.
You have a laugh?
Yeah, listen. Why did we not use that when Marcus was getting emotional?
You should not be sitting next to that button.
That's eerie. Hell yeah. We got some sound effects, guys.
Yeah.
Stay tuned because next week I'm going to definitely overuse all of those.